Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well. And, just wanted to give you an update on what's been going on. Today was actually a pretty interesting day. I'll try to make this as short as possible, especially because my Sabbath begins from 10 p.m. on Saturday to 10 p.m. on Sunday, and it's already 10 p.m. So I want to go to sleep. Uh, so I've been working on my rule of life. I've been adding things to it. If you see the original video, I'll put a link to here. But if you see the comments, my notes are in the comments, and I keep adding to it. If you see the description, you'll see links to some of the resources, like Pastor Rick Warren, as well as Eastside Christian, just other places. John Maxwell, I think, was another one, and Charles Stanley. I'm going to add that today. But what happened today was almost like, yesterday I had I really sat down and I actually started writing my rule of life. And I prayed a lot about it throughout the day. And actually, 2 or 3 days ago, I started the daily office, a divine office. Both are used, and I looked into what the monks do, and they have their different times. I think it's 5 times, and I actually set my alarm. I'm not waking up at 3 in the morning though. That's another story. But uh, I set my alarm, so I stop and I take a breath and I actually read one of the Psalms, because what they do is they actually, I saw somewhere, read somewhere that part of what they do during their daily office is they actually read the Psalms. They read all 150 Psalms in a month. And a friend said, well, that's not much. That's, break it up into, 150 divided by 30. So uh, you're looking at about 5 to 6, depending on, but anyways, so I started doing that. I actually started reading, and it felt nice to be able to pause and to breathe and to pray. And I think because of that, to be honest with you, I think I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and even though I've gotten, Satan's got me with the shiny this time is the PS5 video game. What is this? Disney Speedstorm, which is like Mario Karts, except it's a higher level. It appeals to me because of the kind of games I used to play in Android, AFK games, where you're having to collect shards and power up, and you're playing with other players, and so it appeals to me, and that's the problem. Originally I had started just playing it just for the fun, and I thought I had been playing for about half an hour, to be honest with you, and it was like 3 or 4 hours. And that has happened almost every night this week, where I'm playing, and it's like before I know it, it's 5 in the morning. Before, with the AFK games on the Android, it was 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and I could kind of justify it because mom would wake up, and I'm like, okay, well, and but now no, but you know what? I've been telling myself, what else do you have to do? You're taking care of mom, and enjoy kind of like your vacation from work, and this is your reward, and it's making me it's making me happy, and I really, in the past 10 years, have not been very happy. I hate to say that. Very few times have I been consistently happy, maybe once or twice a year, but this game really has brought me a lot of joy. And yesterday when I was thinking about the rule of life, I said, I really feel like I need to uh, cut out the video games altogether, because I cannot control it. It's just like alcohol. I'm not an alcoholic, although I remember arguing with a teacher once. She was full blown alcoholic, but she goes, "No, no, we're not alcoholics because we haven't had two blackouts." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I can't hold my liquor. I don't drink beer. It's disgusting to me. But hard liquor, brandy, things like that. I like, and I, if people give me more, I take more and I drink it. One of my former students, who's now a professor well, I won't say where, but he's a professor. I'm very proud of him. He invited me. His parents invited me to his house, and they gave me a bottle of some kind of schnapps or something, and I took it back with this when I was living in Yuma, and I took it, and one day I decided, well, I'm gonna try it. Try a little bit, and I finished the entire bottle of schnapps, and I'm like, I don't know if I was wasted. I don't remember how I felt. I don't remember much, but I cannot hold my liquor, and I've known that since college. And the same thing with video games. I just can't control it. especially when I recognize that I am in shock. It's something that I've been wrestling with, talking to myself about this, reflecting this past week. One thing that I spoke about in several different groups that I'm enrolled in on Zoom is that I saw something that talked about how when you're in shock and what things you can do to get yourself out of it. And it was primarily for caregivers. One of them is take a cold shower, and I do that. I do that after dealing with mom. I take a cold shower because I just need to, or walk, but exercise. One thing that I had been doing a lot was when mom was having blowout after blowout, like almost every 2-3 days, and thank God no UTI, was just hitting carbs. It was like any carb. It was like mostly sweets like candy, ding dong cupcakes, cakes. I would go out and buy a big cake, like a birthday cake. I eat it almost all myself. I was just hitting it hard. And again, I don't have to recognize. I mean, I guess part of it is denial. It's like what's really happening, and the truth is, it is shock. It is just shock for me. I told my mom today because she had a blowout, and we were just talking. I had been a little bit brisk with her, and so I said, when in a calm moment, I told her, you know, when we were kids, my sister and I don't know what we were doing, but she started yelling and screaming, pulling her hair, slapping herself. And I remember looking at her like, What's going on?" It seemed like the world was coming to an end. I was only like maybe 5 years old, and she just ran out of the house, and I thought, talking about abandonment issues, I ran after her. I'm like, "What's going on?" And outside, she was kind of curled up on the corner of the house, just crying, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And again, I don't know what happened, but obviously, young mom. And I told that to a very dear friend. And years later, we're just hanging out, and she tells me, out of the blue, she tells me, you know, I did that too. I slapped myself and pulled my hair when my kids were young, very young. And that's all she said. And I knew exactly what she was referring to. I knew exactly. It took me back exactly to the moment when I told her. And, I imagine that a lot of mothers do, a lot of young mothers do. It is not easy, and it's not easy for a man to play mom and to be dealing with blowouts. And I imagine it's one thing to be changing the dirty diaper blowout of a baby, an infant, and that of an adult. I don't know if it can be compared because it's a lot bigger. And you can, turn the baby, an adult, you just can't just flip them over. So, I'm in shock, and I'm definitely burned out. But what ended up happening was I was seeing a commercial and there'll be some triggers from now on, so just beware. Um, I was seeing a commercial that's coming out for Raid Shadow Legend, and it's a video game that I played a lot. Really enjoyed it. And I would wake up at 5 in the morning just to do the guild raids, the boss raids. Everybody would have to attack the boss. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if it was Ukraine or wherever these people are, noontime for them, but it was 5 a.m. for me. But I'd have to get up because I wanted to hit the boss and get some, gold or credits or whatever, rewards, treasures. And, but it apparently has continued, but there's a commercial out now of Alice in Wonderland. And this isn't the Disney Alice in Wonderland. This is a young girl that it's kind of like a semi anime, but semi real life. It's the animation is really intense, and it's basically a young girl who falls into this world, and she's basically killed time after time, and she can't get away, and it happens over and over, hundreds of times. And she says, "But I got stronger. I learned," and eventually she cuts the head off the queen, who's very seductive. Everything's very spiritistic and very I don't want to say lewd, but it's a trigger. And I was like, "Oh man, this is cool. I want to go back to Raid." And I'm like, "No, you're not going back to Raid." They actually had He-Man, and if you remember the cartoon He-Man and the Skeletor, for Christmas they were giving those out for free, tunes for the game. And I was like, "Oh, I should just go back just to get it, not play, but just get it." And so, anyways, when I was seeing this, I felt enticed by Satan. And I had given up the games. I had gone back to, I lasted about a week, and then I found the PS5, the video game, the Disney Speedstorm, and it was kind of like, enough is enough. I need to do something radical. I need to, I was putting in my rule of life. Uh, One of the things in the rule of life, and I'll talk more, I'll do another video on it, is what somebody said. I think it was actually the WAC, Whittier Area Community Church pastor, had said, it, not Daniel, Joseph prepared for temptation. When Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him, that was not the time to think and ponder, what should I do? It was like, it's time to action. It's like, we're putting this plan into action. So he ran. He knew he was supposed to run. And so, boy, that's I would love to be able to do that, but what else do I have? And that's what I've been talking to Jesus a lot about. What do I have that can help me? Not the carbs, not the alcohol, not the questionable conduct on the internet. Uh, you know, it's what can I do if I'm in shock? And one day I actually, a couple of weeks ago, just sat in bed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and I was like, and it helped. It helped a lot. So I cannot negate the Holy Spirit, but it's like, can I do that each and every time? I mean, it's like, it's like, I don't want to be disrespectful to the Holy Spirit or to Jesus or Jehovah, but just how many times can I walk on water before hopefully I won't drown, but I do, with the suicidal ideations that led me to Celebrate Recovery. Um, I need to be very careful. I need to be very guarded and protected. And I see that Jesus is intervening. And that's to come today. It's like, gee, now 11 minutes and I'm barely talking about today. So I woke up and it almost seems like when it reflected on the today, it was a ping pong match between Jesus and Satan, and I was the ball. But I was kind of like a spectator. Even when Mom had the blowout, which I actually handled it fairly well. Fairly well. I've been handling it pretty well. One of my uh, rules of life is compassion. And it's almost because it's on there, it's almost like written in stone. It's like, you have to. When I start losing, it's like, you have to show compassion. I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I don't like this rule of life. But it's there. And it's like, okay, let's just follow through with it. Just cool off. And so when I was in the restroom with Mom cleaning her up, I started listening to Rick Warren. I just listened to something. I was just like, I need something now. And what popped up, and this is the Holy Spirit just popping things up that I needed exactly at that moment. And it was talking about, and I'll put links to some of these resources later, not now. But it was Rick talking about, you need to be fed up. You need to be fed up. You need to be so fed up with whatever you're going through that you're willing to make the change. And we know that from Celebrate Recovery. But I thought, you know what? The first thought that came to my mind as he was talking was, I already knew I need to get rid of the PS5. And I'm like, man, it's not a cheap thing. It's not a cheap toy. Let's put it that way. And the other thing was, when I really cleaned up my act, when I left to Yuma, Arizona, I really wanted to give Jesus something to bless because I was leaving home. It's like that scene where Peter says, we've left home and family and friends and mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, wives and uncles. And it's like, what are we going to get? And it's like, I had left everything, given a lot of things away it was almost like, going into the desert. Well, literally, but, and Jesus definitely blessed it. But, my point was that I gave a lot of things away. I gave all of my DVDs. I had just purchased it had just come out, the DVD at Costco, the series, the first season of Star Trek. And a few months later, after buying that, it's when I decided to just give away everything. So I gave it away to a brother over at the Crystal Cathedral who was doing men's conferences and men's groups. And he'd used a lot of the videos for leadership. So I gave all that to him. But I'm like, okay, so what do I do with the PS5? Because some stuff, like I had a lot of Disney, having been a Disney photographer for a little while, and having had a Disney pass for years, if not over a decade, I bought all kinds of collectibles. and nothing super expensive, but things that were, collectibles. And when I when I was asking Jesus for guidance and to open a door, I realized I had to, like the Bereans, I had to. Was it the Bereans? I think so. The ones who basically burned all their witchcraft books. And they could have sold them, but they didn't. And the Bible tells us how much gold or silver, it was equated to. So I'm like, I obviously the first thought was I need to throw this PS5 into the trash can. And then I thought, well, maybe I can give it away to somebody. And I'm like, but anyways, you can see the dilemma. If I give it to somebody, how is it going to affect them? So, anyways, I could probably just keep it in the garage or something. I don't know. But that was the first thing that came up. That was with Rick, and then later on, I was listening to Eastside Christian Church, and they're doing their weeds in the garden based on series, and they were talking about stress and burnout, and it really hit home. It was talking about I think it's First Kings, is it 11, where Elijah competes with the Baal priests, and they aren't able to burn the offering, and Jehovah burns the bull offering, and Elijah has all the Baal priests executed, and Jezebel says, "I'm going to come after you," and then he takes off, and he does a good job. The pastor does a good job explaining what happened. It's like, and what happened was that it was like just all this neglect is what happened. The overstress and physical activity, the eating, the sleeping, not sleeping rather, and it's all of that just hit home because it's like that's me. That's a caregiver. It's like waking up in the middle of the night taking care of something, and it just hit home. And he talked about you need to have a daily rhythm. You need to get out of being isolated, get into a small group, or find a friend that can help you carry the load. And again, all that we know from Celebrate Recovery. And then the last one, I was washing my car actually because it was just I needed to wash it, and I wanted to hear something. I don't remember what I prompted in YouTube, but Charles Stanley comes up, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll listen to that because it was like 20 something minutes, I think. And he's talking about being frustrated. And he says, not so much, well, okay, bottom line was, because I'm going to end this, it's already 17 minutes. And thank you for sticking it out this long if you have. But basically, Charles Stanley says, if things that you want to happen aren't happening, uh, it's possible God's allowing you to get frustrated, or Jesus is allowing you to get frustrated because it's not his will. He has other blessings he wants to give you. And he gives a really good example of his own personal life, but I'm going to end it with that. So it was definitely an educational day. you know. So tomorrow I'm hoping to go to Whittier Area Community Church to listen to them in the morning, and then spend the rest of the day at Eastside Community Church in Anaheim to help with the pastoral care, and then go to Costco because we need more milk. And hopefully eggs. Hopefully I can find some eggs, and then come home. So thank you for listening. Keep you all in my prayers, and feel free to let me know how you're doing and if you need prayers. All right. God bless you.